Do you want me to sing, or do you want to break me? Emily's voice trembled as she stood barefoot in the center of the grand ballroom, clutching a microphone with fingers so cold they couldn't stop shaking. Around her, the room pulsed with quiet laughter and polished shoes, men in tuxedos, women in diamonds, and one powerful billionaire leaning smugly against the bar, watching her like she was some kind of joke. She had never felt smaller. Dirt on her jeans, stomach still aching from hunger, her heart a wild drumbeat of fear and fury. But beneath all of it, there was fire. Daniel Whitmore had dragged her in front of these people to humiliate her. A street girl, a thief, just another nobody. But what he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that her voice carried a legacy, a memory, and a secret that would rip open everything he thought he knew about his past. If you stay, you'll witness the moment a homeless girl shatters a billionaire's world with a single note. What happens next will leave your heart pounding and your eyes wide open. "Who let a street rat into my kitchen?" Daniel Whitmore's voice echoed like thunder through the marble halls of his Hudson Valley estate. He had just stepped into the gleaming stainless steel kitchen to check the final preparations for the most important dinner of his career, a $50 million real estate deal with international investors, and instead found a filthy, skinny girl hiding behind the prep counter. Her clothes were torn, her cheeks smudged with dirt, and in her trembling hand was a slice of prosciutto. "I was hungry," she whispered, her voice so faint it almost got lost in the hum of the wine cooler. Daniel looked at her like she was a disease, a thief, on tonight of all nights. "Of course." She dropped the meat instantly, backing away. "Please don't call the police. I swear I won't do it again." Daniel's lips curled into a cruel smirk. An idea struck him, not just to punish, but to entertain. "You want to stay out of jail?" he asked. "Fine. Sing for my guests. Give them a show." Her eyes widened in horror. I don't sing. Not well." "Even better," Daniel chuckled darkly. "They'll love it." He didn't expect anything from the girl except embarrassment and laughter, a perfect icebreaker for men who thought empathy was weakness. She was just a street kid, a prop. By 8:00 p.m., the mansion's ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers and the scent of wealth. Russian oligarchs, German magnates, and Middle Eastern oil heirs sipped rare scotch and smoked cigars worth more than most families made in a year. Daniel stood at the head of the room, smiling with theatrical smugness. "Gentlemen," he said, raising his glass, "tonight I have a surprise for you, an artist of a different kind." Laughter rippled through the crowd as Emily Carter was led in barefoot and shivering. Her oversized sweatshirt hung off one shoulder. Her jeans were ripped at the knees, more holes than fabric. She looked like a ghost in a palace. "Found her in my kitchen," Daniel announced, "trying to steal food, but I thought, why not let her earn it? Sing for us, sweetheart. Right here. Right now." The men jeered. One clapped mockingly. Another leaned over to whisper, "Are you serious?" Daniel nodded with a grin. Emily's hands shook as he handed her a microphone. "Go on," he said coldly. "Sing, or I make the call." She looked at the door, then at the men, then at the floor, and then she closed her eyes. A breath. Silence. And then she sang. Ave Maria. Not just a note, but a sound so pure, so raw, it shattered the mockery like glass. The ballroom froze. The air thickened. Her voice wasn't just beautiful, it was haunting. Like pain turned into poetry. Like something not from this world but sent to remind it of grace. Even Daniel felt it. A chill ran down his spine. The hairs on his arms stood up. He felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Some guests lowered their cigars. Others just stared, eyes moist. When she hit the high note, a few audibly gasped. She was no street rat. She was a miracle. And Daniel, he recognized it. That voice, that vibrato, that phrasing, it couldn't be. When the final note faded into stillness, the room erupted in stunned applause. But Daniel remained frozen. He couldn't look away. After the guests had left, still murmuring about the girl, Daniel stayed behind with her in the grand hall. She stood near the fireplace, her hands wrapped around herself. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" he asked. "My mother taught me. Before she died." Daniel's chest tightened. "Your mother's name, Claire Dawson. She was a soprano, sang at the Metropolitan Opera. Before she got sick, his world collapsed in an instant. Claire Dawson. It couldn't be. It was. His voice cracked. When did she die 3 years ago? Cancer. I was 13. After that, we lost the apartment. No family, no friends. I ended up on the street. Daniel staggered back as if struck. Claire, the woman he'd once loved more than life. The woman he'd abandoned when she told him she was pregnant because he was too focused on building his empire. His voice was barely a whisper. Emily, how old are you? 16. Everything inside him went still. That means She tilted her head, confused. Daniel stepped toward his desk. He opened a drawer and took out a worn photograph. A young Claire, smiling radiant. He held it out with trembling hands. Is this your mother? Emily looked at it and broke. Tears flooded her eyes. Yes, that's her. But how do you have that? Daniel's voice cracked. Because I loved her. 17 years ago, and I was a coward. When she told me she was pregnant, I ran. Emily stared at him, eyes wide and wet. You left her, you left us. He nodded, ashamed. I thought a child would ruin everything. I thought love could wait. But I was wrong. She stepped back. You ruined her life. She gave up everything for me. She sold her gowns, her jewelry, even her piano. And you, her voice broke, you were building this palace while she was dying in a rented room. Daniel looked around at the chandeliers, the gold, the imported marble. And for the first time, it all felt cold. I didn't know, he said helplessly. I didn't know you existed. Well, now you do, she said, her voice a blade. And it changes nothing. Emily turned to go. Then without looking back, she took off a silver chain around her neck and threw it onto the table. It was a small angel pendant. Daniel's breath caught. He remembered that pendant. He had given it to Claire the night they almost ran away together. He picked it up as if it would burn him. Emily, wait. But she was already out the door, and he was left holding the proof that she was his daughter, and the weight of 17 years of silence. We're sorry to leave you on this note, but this is only the beginning of a journey filled with more heartbreak, redemption, and an ending that may just leave you in tears. Do you believe a person can truly change when faced with the consequences of their past? Should Emily give Daniel a chance to make things right? If this story moved you even a little, don't forget to hit like and share this with someone who needs to believe in second chances. The sound of the front door slamming echoed through the estate like a gunshot. Daniel Whitmore stood frozen in his study, clutching the angel pendant in his hand as if it might dissolve. His heart thudded in his chest, each beat screaming the same words, she's mine, she's my daughter, and I let her walk away. The room around him blurred. All the wealth, the grandeur, the paintings, the imported Italian marble, it meant nothing now. Emily's voice still rang in his ears, sharp as shattered glass. You ruined her life. For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly helpless. That night, he didn't sleep. The next morning, he canceled every meeting, called off the deal. He didn't care about 50 million. He didn't care about the investors. All he could see was Claire's face. All he could hear was Emily's trembling voice singing like an angel and breaking like a child. By noon, he'd hired a team of private investigators. He gave them everything: Claire's name, the old address where she used to live, even the last known hospital she might have visited. He wired bonuses to whoever found Emily first. By the end of day 2, still nothing. Day 3, he drove through New York City himself, window down, stopping at soup kitchens and shelters. Most people turned away. Some recognized the girl but hadn't seen her in weeks. It was like she'd vanished. On the morning of the 4th day, Daniel stood outside St. Grace Cathedral in San Francisco. It was early. The air was damp. He wasn't even sure why he was there until he heard it. A voice. His heart jumped. Faint at first, but unmistakable. Ave Maria drifting through the air like mist. That same voice, that same piercing purity that had stopped time in his ballroom. He followed it across the plaza. There she was. Emily stood in front of the cathedral steps, eyes closed, her long brown hair tangled in the breeze. She was barefoot again, her clothes still torn, her arms wrapped around herself for warmth, but her voice made her glow. People had gathered, some filmed, Others dropped coins in her guitar case, even though she didn't have a guitar. Daniel didn't move. He just watched her, his daughter, singing her pain into the world. When the final note faded, the crowd applauded softly. Emily opened her eyes and froze. She saw him. Their gazes locked and her lips tightened. She bent down quickly, grabbing the crumpled bills and coins. She turned to leave. "Emily, wait!" Daniel called out, stepping forward. She didn't stop. He walked faster, then jogged, then finally reached her and gently grabbed her arm. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice ice. "I need to talk to you." I said, "Don't touch me. I'm sorry." "You already said that. I mean it. All of it. I didn't know. Claire never told me because she knew you wouldn't care. I do care now." Now she scoffed. "After 17 years of silence, I was a coward. I admit that. But Emily, I swear to you, I want to make this right." She turned to him slowly, her eyes filled with a fire he couldn't look away from. "You can't buy me, Mr. Whitmore." He shook his head. "I'm not trying to. I'm offering you what I should have given you from the start, a father. A real one. If you let me." "And what do you expect me to do?" she asked bitterly. "Move into your mansion, pretend you didn't throw my mother away like trash?" "No, I don't expect anything. I'm asking." She looked at him long and hard, her face unreadable. Then her voice softened but didn't lose its edge. "If you really want to make this right, then prove it." "How?" he whispered. "I want you to give up everything." Daniel blinked. "What do you mean I want you to step down from your empire? No more deals, no more towers, no more chasing profits. You say you regret choosing ambition over family, prove it." He stared at her, stunned. "It wasn't just about apologies anymore. It was about sacrifice," Emily continued. "And if you really want to do something for me, then help me build something that matters. A music school. For kids like me. For kids who have voices but no place to be heard. And name it after my mother, Claire Dawson." Daniel's chest rose and fell. He could barely breathe. Her words weren't cruel. They were just. He looked into her eyes, those same crystal blue eyes he once saw in Claire, and nodded. "Done," he said. "All of it. I'll sell the company. I'll fund the school. I'll do whatever it takes." Emily looked away for a moment, blinking fast. Her lips trembled just slightly. "I'm not saying I forgive you," she whispered. "I don't deserve it. But maybe in time." She glanced back at him, cautious, guarded. "I don't trust easily. Not anymore." "I'll earn it," he said quietly. "However long it takes." She didn't respond right away. Then finally she nodded just once. "We start with the school," she said. Daniel exhaled, emotion washing through him like a wave. For the first time there was light in the tunnel. But Emily wasn't done. "One more thing," she said, taking a step forward. "The necklace. The angel pendant." He pulled it from his coat pocket and held it out to her. She took it gently. "I'm keeping this," she said. "Not for you. For her." Then she turned and walked toward the cathedral, steps leaving him in the street, holding back tears. But this time he wasn't watching her disappear. He was watching her lead, and he would follow. We're truly sorry to pause the story here, but the next part will take you through one of the most beautiful transformations ever told. If your child came back into your life after years of silence, would you be willing to give up everything to earn their trust? Please like and share if you believe in second chances and want to see how this journey unfolds. Months passed, and for the first time in his adult life, Daniel Whitmore's calendar was no longer filled with board meetings, acquisition deals, or champagne galas. Instead, his days revolved around foundation papers, community center permits, and the soft, persistent voice of Emily Carter, his daughter leading a dream he was finally ready to follow. Together, they converted his Hudson Valley estate into something no one could have predicted: a music school. But not just any school. It was named the Claire Dawson Academy in honor of the woman who once sang to empty stages and raised a daughter with nothing but courage and lullabies. The grand ballroom where billionaires once laughed now echoed with the voices of children, street kids, orphans, broken but not lost learning scales and harmony. Emily oversaw every detail. She taught classes in the afternoon and sang with the children in the evenings. The piano in the great hall, once a silent decoration, became the heart of the home. Daniel had sold 80% of his holdings and used the funds not only to sustain the academy, but also to open shelters for single mothers and music outreach programs in inner-city schools across the country. He kept just enough to live comfortably and to fund Emily's education. She had just received word she'd been accepted into Juilliard with a full scholarship. But before she left New York, one last curtain was about to rise. The Metropolitan Opera House, the same stage where Claire Dawson had once dreamed to sing before illness stole her future, sent Emily an invitation, an official debut. A solo performance, a tribute concert dedicated to the Academy and her late mother. The night of the performance, the hall was sold out. Thousands gathered, but Daniel could only focus on the single figure stepping onto the stage. Emily wore a white gown, simple, elegant, vintage. The same gown Claire had worn in her final concert. Her hair was pulled back, revealing her mother's cheekbones, her father's eyes, and her own fire. She walked to the microphone, calm and steady, and looked out at the crowd. Tonight she began, I sing for two people, one who gave me life and one who taught me what it means to live. To my mother who showed me that music can heal, and to my father who showed me that it's never too late to become the person you should have been all along. Then she sang Ave Maria. But this time it was different. Not from fear, not from pain, but from something deeper, from peace. The hall fell into reverent silence. Her voice soared across the velvet walls, wrapped around every breath, every heartbeat in the room. Daniel wept openly, not from guilt, but from gratitude. When the final note faded, the applause didn't stop for a full 10 minutes. Backstage after the performance, Emily found Daniel waiting with red eyes and open arms. "You were incredible," he said, barely holding back emotion. She smiled and took his hand. "She would have been proud of you too." Weeks later, father and daughter stood again before a familiar building, St. Grace Cathedral, but this time not as strangers, as family. Emily lit a single candle inside the chapel and knelt at the back pew. Daniel knelt beside her. For a moment there were no words. Then softly Emily whispered, "I forgive you." Daniel turned to her, slowly stunned. He'd never asked again. He didn't dare hope. Why, he asked? Because I needed to. Not for you, for me. Holding on to pain doesn't protect you. Letting go does. Daniel closed his eyes. For the first time in decades, the ache inside his chest loosened. 6 months later, they packed for New York City. Emily began classes at Juilliard, and Daniel rented a modest apartment nearby. Every evening after practice, she'd return home for dinner, not with staff or servants, but with him, her father. On weekends, they returned to the Academy, where Emily continued to mentor children and teach them the one truth Claire had taught her long ago. Your voice is your power. No one can silence it but you. Word of the Academy spread across the country, then the world. Foundations from Europe, Canada, and even South America reached out to fund new chapters. And at every ribbon cutting, at every press event, Emily insisted on one thing: no suits, no gold plaques, just children music and stories of hope. In one of her interviews, when asked what success meant to her, now Emily smiled and said, "Real success, it's not applause. It's not awards. It's looking someone in the eye and knowing you helped them believe in themselves. That's what my mom gave me, and what my father eventually learned to give." On the anniversary of her debut, she returned to the Met for a private performance for the children of the Academy. Daniel sat in the front row holding a framed photo of Claire. Emily sang Ave Maria one more time. And this time it wasn't just a tribute, it was a homecoming. The curtain fell, the lights dimmed, and the love between a father and daughter, once broken by silence and time, stood whole again, stronger than ever. Now let me ask you something. If someone hurt you deeply in the past, would you ever open your heart again if they truly changed? And do you believe that love, when real, can rewrite even the darkest chapters of our lives? What do you think of this story? If it moved you, please comment number 3 below. If you think it was just okay, drop a number 2. And if you feel it could have been better, be honest and type number 1. Also, let us know, where in the world are you watching from? We'd love it if you tap that heart and share this story with someone who might still believe in second chances.